Okay, everybody. um, I have just started the trial, the coverage today. And when I came in, it was uh Emma on the stand, and I watched just a moment of that, and then I fast forwarded so that I could join, so I could be at the same spot as the live chat. So, I thought what I would do during the lunch hour. Oh, but there was something I wanted to show that I thought was crazy. Yeah, right here. Stop. Okay, there we go. All right, so welcome. Thank you for being here. If you are here during the lunch break of the trial, I know there's a lot of people live. I'm watching over on Crush's channel. I'm going to start this by noting, look at the body language between Garth and Chad. Now, Garth's got his head turned because he's watching Boyce walk off the stand. But this was immediately like when they first stood up. Look at Chad Daybell and then his son Garth. Exact mirror of one another, to the point that even their right hand is over their left hand. And to me, it brings up just a moment of curiosity, just exactly how well trained were the Daybell children. We're beginning to get an idea, I think, that Chad was pretty controlling in his house, which is really, really surprising to me, because I experienced Chad Daybell as a weakling, right? I think he's weak in spirit. I think that's why he uses all this mystical, magical mumbo jumbo. And I think the reality in terms of him being an effective, accomplished person, I think he falls far short of that map. I think Heather Daybell, when she was interviewed on Hidden True Crime Channel, she said she was embarrassed of Chad, that he is a very strange, off-putting, weak character. And, I've never met the guy, never spoken to him, but just listening to him talk and watching his body language, seeing the types of personality factors that he's got on display, he just seems incredibly submissive. There's a great deal of anxiety and fear that comes through. And I think that's why he fell back on this magical, I'm special, I stand out, I'm different from all of you because I can see behind the veil and you can't, yada yada boo boo. And that had he said that, in the Episcopalian church or the Methodist church or whatever, then maybe they would have just, taken him to a psychiatric ward. But because of the accepted teachings of the Mormon religion, that, they believe in this idea of mysticism. Magic is a big part of their religion. And I'm not, all religions have some element of spirituality, right? That's the whole point. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost in one. So even the publishing company that they had was not Chad's accomplishment. It was Tammy's. She did it. And I feel for her. Can you imagine that moment of realization that she had of, if I don't make a job for my husband, he'll never have a job. Like, the best that he can do is dig holes to bury people. And how appropriate is it that that's actually his greatest accomplishment in life, is the death of 4 people murdered in his yard, correct? So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, I worry about these kids. Yes, it's frustrating. I find both Emma and Garth, I find it very difficult to have compassion for them as they have testified what bit I have seen so far. I think I think my compassion for them comes by way of imagining their childhood. Imagine living in the home with someone like Chad Daybell. We really have no idea just exactly what types of influences these kids were exposed to. But I think one thing is for certain. I think that Chad was he experienced positive reinforcement for these bizarre beliefs. I think that he developed this delusional belief that he was in fact special. I think that Lori cemented that belief, and in some way he sort of began to believe his own crap. He used to, if the computers would like break down and or the connection was slow or buffering or whatever, he would stop the office from working so he could pray for the computers. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. What would you do if your boss told you to move back away from the computer because he was going to do a blessing for the computers so that they would work better, so the connection would be faster? And then I want you to, that's in a work setting with people that are not his family. Can you imagine how unusual and odd it must have been for Garth and Emma and the other kids when they were growing up with this bozo? So my compassion comes as I consider the developmental influences that Chad had on this group of people. We know now that Tammy experienced difficult depression. Well, one question: if you had to live with Chad Daybell, do you think you would be depressed? No hope in your future? Your husband telling the whole world that you're going to die early? What kind of joy and happiness could she have pursued with that type of influence? It's just dark and frightening and removes all sense of control from whomever it is that he happens to be talking about. And it was all developed, I believe, to provide him narcissistic supply. This ability for him to stand up and lie and say that he can see past lives and that he can build portals, and all of it was simply a fairy tale. He was a legend in his own mind. But if you were the kid or the wife living under that roof, you were influenced. You were influenced by his weirdness. Now, I'm finding it very difficult to find compassion for Emma and Garth on the stand, because here's another fact. Their mother made them a life, not Chad. Chad was a pretty uninvolved parent. Tammy was the one that really spent the majority of time with the kids. She taught at their school. All of their friends liked her. There were videos. Remember, way back when all this first happened, I found Tammy Daybell's YouTube channel. I found her YouTube channel, and she had up videos of her kids, but also kids from the school that were acting out skits or singing or just having conversations together. And it became very clear. There were some videos where they were in the school and they were like recording like a program in school. And you could see her standing there, and every single kid that walked past her spoke to her. She smiled at them. You could tell it was a pleasant exchange, and you could see that the kids really liked her. All the kids in the school, not her own children, but any kid that happened to walk past her. So I remember that often. And Seth Daybell, he ended up closing down that channel or setting it to private or something. He cut off access to it. I sent an email to him and said that I wanted to use a clip from the channel that showed Tammy in happiness, smiling and interacting with the school. and he said, okay, sure, you can use my video, you can do this. He ended up shutting down her channel, and I do have some of those videos. I did download some of them, but I'm not going to play them. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't show anything negative. Every single thing they show is positive, happy, uplifting. It reveals Tammy to be a present and active mother, that she encouraged her kids to do these skits and these songs. And I find it so interesting psychologically that Seth would not want the world to know the bright side of Tammy. In fact, Emma just went up on the stand and described her mother as a very sickly and ill woman. But Seth, the videos that you know that I have, your mother was not sickly and ill. You could see it in her face that when she was at school. Now there was this one video that was real. I'm haunted by it. It's one video where he's singing, "Do you want to be a Mormon?" And he and Garth are acting out this little skit as they're singing. They made like a music video, and they're singing this, alteration to the Frozen song. And during one part of the song, Tammy, it's the only place that you see her in this video, and she's opening up the door to the room that is the addition to the house, and she's where the bedroom is upstairs. She's opening up the door, and at the end of the song it says, something like, okay, what? Yes, something like that. At the end of it, it says they've gone through, do you want to be a Mormon? Do you want to be a Mormon? Everybody's shutting the door in their face and saying, go away. No, I don't want to be a Mormon, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, there's that final resolution where someone says, okay, yes. And Tammy opens up the door and invites them to come into the house, ostensibly to witness to her, correct? So in this particular moment where she stands and opens up the door, her face is like a mask. There's no smile. It's just, she looks detached and disoriented. She doesn't look like what we see in all the other videos. There's no animation, there's no smiles. She's just very robotic, and no smile, nothing. So, Seth closed the channel, struck my channel, and took down the "Do You Want to Be a Mormon" video. So after he told me that I could. So he set me up. So I have no warm and fuzzy feelings for Seth Daybell at all. Now, Garth and Emma, I'm struggling with this because Emma, the little bit I heard with Emma, she said things. She said her mom had severe bruising, because that's part of the defense, right? That's part of why she had bruises on her arms. The bruises, she wasn't covered. If you have severe bruising, aren't you covered in bruises? And she's not. And so her testimony, the little bit I saw, seemed all to be for Daddy Daybell. Who's your daddy? Well, in this case, it's Daddy Daybell. Now, Emma is struggling with who her mommy is. She's now dyed her hair blonde and let it grow out. So now she looks like Lori. But she originally fashioned her appearance after Tammy. There's a lot of suggestion that there are some serious identity issues happening. And I don't mind saying this. Garth, I can barely listen to Garth speak because he sounds so much like Chad. And it's just, there is this feel it in me of nausea to listen to Chad Daybell speak. I don't know if it's the whininess. I don't know if it's the weakness, but it just, something is bad. There's something wrong with it. Garth, I don't have that visceral feeling of nausea, but he sounds so much like Chad. I can't tolerate it. It makes me want to yell, you know. So what I wanted to do, so I thought this mirroring here was really shocking. If you go back and look at Chad's photographs when he was young, Garth is an absolute replica of Chad Daybell. So, you know, DNA is a very powerful, very, very powerful thing. I just hope that Garth and Emma were not exposed to the, you know, church of the firstborn idiots. But I think they probably were, you know, if I were to guess, I think they probably were. So what I want to do right now is I want to go back to the beginning of Emma, because I didn't see but just a moment or two of it. And I'm going to watch as much as I can, and you're welcome to watch with me. And I'm just going to warn you, I am finding it difficult to have compassion, and I'm apologize for that. And it is very difficult for me to accept that I should be compassionate toward a young woman who says to her father, I could tell you didn't have anything to do with JJ and Tylee being found here buried on our property, and then immediately turns around and is visiting Lori in the jail, and now is modeling her outward appearance to be a mini-me of Lori. I don't have the compassion. It's lost. My compassion continues to rest with Tammy Daybell, Charles Vallow, JJ and Tylee, and to even some extent, Joe Ryan, because I think that Joe Ryan, I think he was killed by Lori. So it's just a trigger warning. I have no compassion for this young lady. My compassion is for her mother.
The children were located during the time that investigators were looking for them.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Okay, I'm too far.
Overruled. And eliciting statements made. It's time. We appreciate your patience as we work through an evidentiary matter. We do have Ms. Murray on the stand. I'll remind you, you're still under oath for your testimony. On direct examination from the defense, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like to continue, you may.
Okay, we'll start here.
I just want to advise you that you can't tell me what someone said and repeat what someone said, but you can answer my questions without telling me what the person actually said to you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's your understanding that at the Knott's Berry Farm trip, Lori Vallow came from another direction. Is that correct?
Yes.
She didn't participate in the travel plans with you to California. Is that correct?
Yes.
At any time, without telling me what she said, was the topic of the location of the children discussed with her?
Yes.
Okay. At any time, did you and your father ever discuss his knowledge of where the children might be?
Yes.
Okay. What do you understand your father's knowledge of where the children were located during the time that investigators were looking for them?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
From my understanding, and from I was told that the children were in a safe place.
Okay. And was that understanding through your discussions with your dad?
Yes.
At any time, did your dad actually know where that safe place was with your discussions?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay. The only way she'd know this is based on hearsay and calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Good job, Lindsay.
At any time, did your father ever tell you where he might think the children might be?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Good job.
Judge, I'm not asking for an answer. I'm asking whether there was a discussion regarding that subject.
May I have a quick sidebar with counsel?
So much frustration. John Pryor, you putz. Sorry, y'all. I am mystified about this young woman growing out her hair, dyeing it blonde, when previously she was looking exactly like Tammy. Why doesn't this woman have an identity of her own?
All right, thank you, counsel. The court reviewed that previous ruling objection to hearsay. The court is going to sustain the objection.
So at some point, is it fair to say that you had a discussion or multiple discussions about with your dad about where the children might or might not be?
Garth
Yes.
comes later, Yankee girl. He comes after Emma.
I want to go to the issue of the planning of your mother's service. Were you present at the time for the planning of that service?
Yes.
Who was present at that time?
Um, when we first talked about choosing a day for the funeral, we were meeting with the mortician, and
Who was that?
it was from he was from Flam Funeral Home. I don't recall his name. And
Were you given a couple of options as to when to have the service?
yes,
And what were those days?
they gave us the choice of Tuesday and Saturday. There were other customers that the
Yes, Marcia.
funeral home was helping, and those were the only days that they were available to have her ready by.
Okay, so I want to clarify something. Your mother passed
You're exactly right.
on that.
Modeling
Friday,
yourself
Saturday.
after someone else.
Yes.
You're not talking the actual Saturday where the unfortunate time you've discovered your mother. You're talking a week later?
Yes, 7 days after that.
So was that a family discussion as to whether or not you would do it on the Tuesday or the Saturday?
Yes,
And then the decision to have the funeral in and I'm going to hack the town again, Springville.
yes.
Is that the name of the town again?
Yep, Springville.
Spring Creek, Springville. I'm going to mess this up, so please forgive me. So the decision to have it in Springville, was that also a family discussion?
Yes.
Welcome, Yankee
And the
girl.
decision
Thank
was
you for
made
being
for
here.
Springville as opposed to Rexburg. Why?
My mother had lived in Springville far longer than she had lived in Rexburg, and her family still lived there. And there was a family plot in the cemetery, so it just seemed like the natural decision to bury her there.
And I would agree with that,
I want to go
y'all.
back a little bit about the,
I would agree with that. Like I live in Texas, right? But my family is from another state, and that state we have multi-generational family there, right? For like maybe 100 years. And so we have a large family plot at the little town at the church. So that's where I'll end up being buried, is back with my grandparents, my mom and dad, that'll be home to me. So, yeah, so I didn't think that was a strange thing that she was buried in Springfield or Springfield. I didn't find that odd.
The outdoors and your mother's participation in the outdoor activities around the property. Can you elaborate a little bit about what your mother's primary interest and role was in terms of the outdoors?
She loved to nurture things, so taking care of animals and gardening and growing plants. She really wanted to have a strawberry.
How about nurturing you, Emma? Wasn't she a great mother to you? Seems like you've forgotten all about her in favor of Lori. If I could talk to this girl.
Patch and raspberries. She liked cute little critters like ducks and chickens and rabbits, and she would take care of them.
Now, in terms of
Who took
managing
care of
the
her?
pet cemetery, was that your father's role or your mother's role to manage that?
My mother's.
Okay, and she was the one primarily responsible?
Yes.
So your father didn't necessarily go there and participate in anything with the pet cemetery. Would that be fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Okay, so anything that changed or anything that was modified in terms of the pets or pet cemetery, would your mother be aware of it?
She would be aware.
Welcome,
Okay.
Callie.
Okay.
Good to see you.
And you recall that you've seen some evidence, actually the news, it's been all over the news, about an email that your father sent to your mother on September 9th, correct?
Yes.
Right. Quick sidebar, please.
Well, that was weird. Why did they go to sidebar? Absolutely, Yankee girl. Don Corleone. Mobsters, aren't they? Oh, this is tough to watch, y'all.
All right, Mr. Pryor, please continue.
You recall reading an email on September 9th about shooting some raccoons and burying it in the pet cemetery. Is that correct?
It was a text message, I believe, but yes, I did.
Would it be unusual for your father to send your mother a message if he was involved in the something involving the pet cemetery?
Objection, Your Honor. May I vote iron native objection?
You may.
Miss Murray, did your parents tell you about every message they ever sent each other?
No,
Did you look at their phone records routinely?
no,
Did you look through their phones routinely?
no.
Your Honor, this would call for speculation. I'm going to object.
Sustained.
Boom. Way to go,
Again, it was
girl.
your mother's primary responsibility to manage the pet cemetery, correct?
Yes,
And it would be, if your father were to do something in the pet cemetery, would it be unusual for your father to have to let your mother know that he was doing something?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
I'll move on, Judge.
Good, John.
You mentioned that you lived kitty corner to the,
I have a question, y'all. Somebody help me. Is it true? Am I remembering this correctly or am I misremembering? Didn't they say that there were no raccoon bones found in the pet cemetery? Am I remembering that correctly or is that a dream I had? Yeah, well, Yankee City girl, Garth is the next witness after Emma. Okay, so yes. Okay, so why do they all keep saying that they're burying millions of raccoons in the pet cemetery? There's no raccoon bones. Weird.
your dad's house. Is that correct?
yes,
And has there been occasions when you folks have also encountered issues with animals on the property?
yes,
And in some of those instances, were those animals buried as a result of being shot
yes,
on your property?
yes,
Okay. And do you have any knowledge about animals being shot on your dad's property as a result of issues with either livestock or otherwise?
yes.
Okay. And some of the animals that were on your father's property at the time, can you go through the list of different type of animals that were on your father's property at that time?
There were a lot of cats. We live right by a busy highway. And so all throughout,
And cats hang
there's
around busy
stray
highways.
cats that get hit, and my mother would feel bad for them. And they weren't even our cat, and they'd get buried. And some pet dogs, raccoons, skunks, rabbits, ducks,
Right.
chickens, sometimes sparrows even too.
Okay, people, I got a question. Is it just me, or does it seem like the amount of animal death is excessive? I have a pet cemetery. It has exactly one dog buried in it. Why is she listing off a name like they were the animal undertakers? This is crazy. Bizarro. Bizarre.
And your mother was a kind and considerate person,
Yes,
and she felt that that was the reason for why she erected the pet cemetery. Is that correct?
even if it was a pest animal, she didn't want them to.
A pest animal So now she's suggesting what? They're burying roaches? And again, I'll ask the same question. They're building up. Tammy was so great, loved so many, took care of so many. Who took care of Tammy?
To be disrespected.
Now, I noticed that when you ran off the laundry list of animals, that during the time period of, let's start with the beginning of November, or beginning of 2019 through at the time when your father was accused of this. Are you aware of whether or not your father owned a dog?
My father did not own a dog. He does not like dogs.
So there was no dog on the property at that point. Is that correct?
Correct.
That they owned.
Oh, that
Okay, question, everybody. Is it telling that Chad Daybell doesn't like dogs? You want to know the more likely? Dogs do not like Chad Daybell. That's the more likely. Dogs that Chad would have tried to have befriended would have been afraid of him and therefore not pleasant. Telling you, my grandpa always told me dogs and small children are the best judge of character to adults. Listen to them.
they owned, yes.
You guys had a dog across the street, right?
We did.
Okay. And you don't know whether Regan Price and her family had dogs, right?
They sometimes have, but I wasn't sure at that time if they did.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your feelings about
Good point, Justice
law
Jane.
enforcement in this case. And there's been some mention previously about your, at least indicating that you had some difficulty with law enforcement. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, when I first, I heard from Garth that a detective had come in.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay, you can't say what Garth told you, but I want to talk about your personal experiences in dealing with law enforcement and how you felt about that.
I was aware of an event that had happened with my brother and I wanted to learn more about it. So I contacted the same detective that had talked to him.
Now, in an instant,
Pharmacia.
was it that same detective who talked to you about the exhumation of your mother?
Yes,
And who was that detective?
Detective Hope.
Now, do you recall when you had that discussion about the exhumation of your mother?
December 13th, 2019.
Okay, and at that time, was it your indication that your mother had not been exhumed?
Yes, I thought she was resting in peace, just like we left her.
Okay, and was the subject of the discussion with Officer Hope?
Do you guys feel like you're listening to a robot? Yes, I thought she was resting in peace like we left her. This is creepy. Creepy.
Hope that your mother in the future would be exhumed?
He said it had already happened.
Okay. And was that the first time you heard about it?
Yes.
And if you need to take a break, you tell me, okay?
Okay.
At any time prior to your mother being exhumed, did anybody from law enforcement ever tell you that your mother was being exhumed?
No.
They don't
Did you
have
ever
to.
hear from your mother's family in Springville that they were going to exhume your mother from the ground?
No, nobody knew.
Okay.
It
And
was an
and to your knowledge,
investigation,
the
young
amount of
lady.
time, do you have any information as to the amount of time from the minute they started the exhumation to when she was placed back in her grave? How much period of time that was?
At the time, I didn't know.
Okay, were you ever misled about whether there was going to be an exhumation or not after the exhumation took place?
No,
You were never misled?
I don't understand the question.
Okay. Did an officer ever tell you that they were going to do an exhumation even though it had already occurred?
Yes,
Who was that?
Detective Hope.
Okay. At any time, did the events that led up to your father's arrest cause you to have concern about law enforcement?
Yes,
What kind of concerns did you have with law enforcement?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
Did you feel like you were at any time under scrutiny as part of this case?
Yes.
What sort of situations was it that felt that you were placed under scrutiny?
Any interaction I had with law enforcement.
Okay, was there an occasion at a gym that caused you particular concern?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled.
Was there a particular situation at a gym that caused you particular concern?
Yes.
What was that situation?
I went to exercise with my sister-in-law and
Was the sister-in-law?
Michaela Daybell,
Okay, that would be who's,
my brother Seth's wife.
okay. I can't keep you straight, I'm sorry. And then what transpired at that point? What did you observe?
I totally agree.
We were in a
Pam.
section of the gym with lightweight dumbbells, and Detective Hermosillo came and started exercising near us. And it seemed like a part of the gym that would have been too easy for him, and he stood closer to us than felt
Objection,
comfortable.
Your Honor, this is calling for speculation.
Yes, it is.
Judge, she's describing an event, not speculating about anything.
It's
Yeah.
overruled.
Why is
Go
he
ahead.
standing next to her? That's
He was
speculation
standing closer
prior.
to us than felt comfortable, and it felt like he was trying to listen in on our conversation.
Were there other occasions, either at church or otherwise, where you felt that people were maybe judging you?
Yes,
Give me an example.
I had a detective from Madison County confront me in the hallway at church.
Okay. And was that an uncomfortable situation?
It was really uncomfortable, and I haven't attended that congregation since.
And was that a situation where your
Wow.
role at the church was what at the time?
I was asked to help teach young children in the nursery. My daughter was in that class, so I was really excited to.
Did this particular detective have some sort of authority over the church or a position in the church that allowed him to dictate whether you were schooling young children or not?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
And Judge, if I could have just a moment, please.
You may.
Wow, this is very hard to listen to. It. Am I just curious? Am I the only one having this really negative reaction, or are y'all feeling it? Because I really feel this. This is a bad sensation. You know what I mean? Her
Did you have an
robotic.
occasion to meet with that same Detective Hope at your school?
Yes,
Do you recall when that was?
I only met with him one time.
Okay. Do you recall what the nature of that conversation was?
You know what it is? You know what it is? It just dawned on me. So he's talking to her about the church, and she says, "Yes, my daughter was in that daycare, and I was very excited to be a part of that." She's just reciting. She's just memorized answers. That I am very excited to go to Disney World. I am very excited to live in Aspen, Colorado with my granddaughter. I am very excited to have Chick-fil-A for dinner. It's not there, is it? The verbal does not match. I mean, we can talk about prosody, but she's not doing anything except giving us a laundry list of what she's going to buy in the grocery store.
The idea was I wanted to ask him what was going on, why he was contacting members of the family.
In what regard?
He was asking where my dad was, and we gave him my dad's phone number.
Well, I find this interesting. So her father sits here in judgment of the death of your mother, your stepmother's 2 children, and your stepmother's husband. Like, your dad is on trial for murder, and she's having a hard time understanding why she might be under investigation or why they may be asking her about location of her father. This is so disingenuous. This is all, I think, in my opinion, designed to get the sympathy of the jury. And I think it's going to fall short because she is so flat and constricted. Someone said maybe she is on the spectrum. I don't think so, because I saw videos of her when she was in high school and she had emotion then.
Told him he was in Hawaii, but they
It is
they
not
said
working.
that they had no way of
Correct.
contacting him. That seemed untrue.
Because you had previously provided that phone
We
information?
provided contact information and they said he was in hiding, but we told them where he was
And when do you recall telling them where your dad was in Hawaii?
at that meeting.
Okay. So a suggestion that you felt that the suggestion that they weren't able to locate your dad and that he was somehow running or hiding was inaccurate?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the
Okay,
day
she just
that
set
you
the
were,
stage. She literally just said that the cops lied. Wow. That's unbelievable. Oh my God.
present for your dad being arrested. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you know the day that that was?
She was,
June 9th.
Martian
Okay, and
Plan.
on that particular day, we've previously seen some videotape of you approaching your father, and it was an emotional situation. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about how the car was positioned in relation to the property, your father's property.
It was parked parallel on the side of the road,
What road was that? Do you recall?
200 north.
Okay, so if the car was pointed towards Salem Highway, the nose of it, correct?
Yes.
And the rear was parked down 200, correct?
Yes.
So it was pulled over on the side of the road. If someone were to look out the right side of the car window, what would you be looking at?
The house.
If someone were to be looking and turning and looking behind the seat, back towards the trunk or that corner, what would they be looking at?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
What would they be looking at?
Whatever was behind the car.
It wouldn't be by turning around and looking back, you wouldn't be looking at the property, would you?
No.
Okay. Now, there was an occasion that during this investigation of your father's property, that your father was over at your home that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you have a discussion with your father about what he was intending to do?
Yes.
Did you have an occasion to observe him leave the house?
Yes.
Did he leave the house at that time? And I'm going to use a phrase, flee the scene?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did you observe your father racing off at a high rate of speed once he left the house?
But the speed limit's 50 miles per hour. I saw him drive that speed.
Okay, and he left the house and did it appear to you that he was in a hurry?
No.
Okay. Now you have a recollection of who he was going to see, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And who was he going to see?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Was there a discussion with you being present that he was going to visit a lawyer?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, move to strike, calls for
God,
hearsay,
John
leading.
Pryor,
Sustained,
you
and I'll strike the
snake.
question and the jury disregard that
You
question.
snake.
But in any event, your father was not.
Objection, Your Honor, this is going to call for speculation.
I agree, and it's leading, so sustained.
Did you observe your father speeding off from the house on the day of June 9th?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Good job, Lindsay.
And again, Judge, if I could have a minute.
John Pryor, you're a snake. Welcome, Just Another Human.
On the day of your mother's funeral, how would you describe your father's reaction?
Typical for any grieving Latter-day Saint husband.
Oh my
Does that
God.
mean-
Oh my God.
He cried. He also seemed happy at moments.
And when you say typical, what do you mean? Is that typical?
Latter-day Saints believe that we will be resurrected and be with our families forever. So a funeral isn't saying goodbye forever. It's a see you later. It's a break.
Well, you got a problem because who's going to be your mom, Lori
So would
or
it be fair to
Tammy,
say
when
that
the
he had
end of
mixed
days
emotions, both
comes?
positive and negative emotions?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Would it be fair to say that he had mixed emotions?
Yes.
Oh, I agree, Pam. I mean, she's simply just, this is a memorized, I think she even knows what the questions are going to be.
Judge, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor. All right, Ms. Blake, cross-examination.
Miss Murray, is it okay if I call you Miss Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor started off saying that he told you to tell the truth here today. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said you'd met with Mr. Pryor maybe 3 times.
That I recall.
You've been talking with your dad almost daily over the last several years, correct?
Yes.
Lots of conversations with your dad.
Yes.
Do you recall your dad in early June of 2020 telling you not to cooperate with law enforcement?
I don't remember him saying that.
You don't remember a phone call in which he relayed to you, probably better if you just don't cooperate?
I don't remember that.
Do you remember then telling the FBI you were not going to meet with them anymore?
I chose not to do that because of counsel from another attorney.
But it was after having that conversation with your dad, correct?
No.
Was it after June 9th of 2020 that you told him that?
Yes.
After June 10th of 2020 that you told him that?
I don't remember.
Do you recall visiting with your dad as well?
Yes.
Do you recall a visit on around November 23rd of last year?
Not specifically.
Do you recall having a visit where you and your dad talked about that 5K race?
Yes.
And do you recall your dad telling you that you might want to say certain things?
No.
You don't recall that?
No.
Play the video.
Do you recall then talking about a race in 2013?
Yes.
You recall your dad saying, once again, maybe say that?
No.
Do you recall your dad talking to you about the one that exercised with you at Zumba that Tammy wasn't able to keep up? She would just make up her own moves. Do you recall your dad telling you that?
No.
Wow.
But you've had a lot of visits with your dad,
Yes.
so it may be hard to remember everything he's told you.
He's never told me to say anything.
Me too, just another human.
So you don't recall him telling you those things.
No.
Hey, Jennifer B.
You talked about you were worried about your mom's health,
Yes.
but your mom went to a doctor, right? She'd been there for a wrist recently.
Just for the wrist.
Surprised you to learn that no mention of current anemia in her medical records?
Boom.
Because she hadn't been to the doctor since 2017.
What about her wrist?
When did your mom go to the doctor for a wrist?
In 2019, that's a
Okay.
2-year gap.
You just answer the question. So when did your mom go for her wrist?
In 2019,
Her medical records say nothing about current anemia. Does that surprise you?
yes,
Her medical records say nothing about sleep apnea, correct?
I don't know.
Would it surprise you that they don't say anything about sleep apnea?
No,
Well, that didn't take long for her to get flustered, did it? John Pryor's looking at Emma like, stay tight, hold tight. Don't
Talked
drop.
about your mom going to bed early. Again, what time did you say she'd go to bed?
it varied depending on the day, but 5, 6, 7 o'clock,
Were you over at the residence when she'd go to bed?
usually,
Would you go in and visit with her?
if she was awake.
Would you go watch her while she was in bed?
No,
So you don't know what she did when she went to bed. Fair to say?
fair.
So you don't know what she would do with the Fitbit when she went to bed, right?
I watched her do it several times.
Several times. You didn't watch her nightly go to bed.
I did not.
You say your mom went to bed that early, 6, 7, 7 at the latest. Is that your recollection?
That's
On
crazy.
some nights, she probably stayed up later.
How much later?
I don't know.
Because you weren't there, right?
Correct?
So surprise you to learn that on October 18th, there was activity on her phone at 10:22 p.m.
No,
That's a lot later than 7.
Yeah.
she had been sick that night. I stay up later when I'm sick and
Oh
have just
my
thrown up
God.
as well.
Were you there that night?
No,
Did you see her throw up?
no,
So you don't know.
nope,
You only know what you were told.
yes.
You were asked about this book fair. You talked about your mom carrying a heavy box. Do you recall that?
Yes,
But your mom was carrying the box, right?
yes,
So she was able to carry a box,
A book.
barely.
but she was doing it, correct?
Yes,
Oh, flippant.
You were asked about who drives the Dodge Dakota. Do you recall that question?
yes.
Wrong
Any reason
part.
why your husband would have referred to the truck keys as your mother's?
They had 2 sets. And the set that my husband used was my mom's.
Any reason why he would have to get those keys from your mom?
Yes,
Why was that?
he wanted to borrow the truck to work potato harvest, and she was the closest of my 2 parents to him.
So they both had keys to it,
Yes,
both access it,
yes,
both could drive it.
yes.
You talked about your mom playing on the Wii. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And what kind of game was that again?
an exercise game.
Did you see her do that a lot?
In 2018 and earlier.
Was that something that she enjoyed?
Yes,
Fair to say your mom enjoyed physical activity?
she enjoyed video games.
And when
Ooh,
you say
I
video
heard the
games, some of
disdain.
them, you described the Wii. Were there other types of video games your mom liked?
Yes,
And what were those?
farming simulations, Pokemon.
Would she play those on her phone? Do you know?
Yes, and other handheld devices.
And then she liked to play the Wii as well.
Periodically.
God. She keeps changing, doesn't she?
And she took self-defense classes.
Not formal classes. It was with our church.
But was that a voluntary thing?
Yes,
So she wanted to go do that.
yes,
And that's physical activity.
yes,
She wanted to participate in Zumba, correct?
yes,
She wanted to do clogging.
yes.
She was training for a 5K.
No,
That's an awful lot of motivation there for
You
a
say she
woman
wasn't
with
training for a
anemia,
5K.
she was
Emma.
not training for a 5K.
Agree, just another human.
Would it surprise you that other people said she was?
No,
We talked earlier a little bit. You weren't privy to all your mom and dad's communications, right?
no,
You weren't privy to all your mom's conversations that she'd have with people, correct?
Correct.
Hi,
So at
AB.
school, she may have conversations when you weren't around, right?
Yes.
She may tell people things that you have no idea she told them, right?
Yes.
And council talked to you about an insurance policy that was increased. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said your mom did that on her own.
Yes.
Ha.
Why was your dad's signature on the application?
I think she took out insurance on him.
Your Honor, may I be handed State's Exhibit 151?
Yes.
This is such a bizarre moment, y'all. This is like the Twilight Zone. Hmm.
And Your Honor, may I ask that the witness be shown this exhibit?
Thank
You
you, AV.
I'll have the.
It was
Marcy,
definitely
please
different, wasn't it?
retrieve that.
And I don't know if council needs to see this as well.
I'm good, Judge. Thank you. I'm good. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just another human. And if y'all could see those videos of her with the kids.
And Miss
at
Murray, if you can just
school,
look that over.
they loved her so much. You could tell the kids at the school thought the world of her. And it is just sickening to listen to this nonsense. It's sickening. I agree, Diane. And welcome, my friend. Hey, Cinnamon Hot Hot.
Did you have a chance to look that over?
Yes.
Do you see on the back page whose signatures were there?
Yes.
And whose are those?
It says employee signature, Tamara M. Daybell. Spouse's signature of applying for coverage, Chad G. Daybell.
And do you see dates by those?
9/8/19.
Is it the same date on both signatures?
Oh,
Yes.
my God.
And can you see that that's only insurance for your mother?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Your Honor,
I feel compassion right
may I be
now.
handed that exhibit?
Yes, I'll have the bailiff retrieve that, please.
So sad. So sad with this young woman
And
and her mom.
permission
Her
to publish
family
from the
was caught
Ella.
up in this
You may publish.
crazy man. Weak, ineffective, just, horrible. Imagine Tammy signing those papers, having no idea the plan they had for her.
And Miss Marie, can you see which
A nightmare.
company this is through?
Yes.
And what company is that?
Life map.
And then do you see kind of towards the bottom a box marked with an amount?
Yes.
And what is that box?
80,000.
And then is this back page the page you were just looking at?
Yes.
And Miss Marie, I believe you indicated that your parents would share their passwords with each other.
Yes.
So is it fair to say that they could access each other's accounts?
Yes.
So your dad could delete emails or block contacts on your mom's account?
If you knew how.
What the hell is John Pryor smiling about? You smug little snake.
And you were asked about whether or not your mom was familiar with paintball guns. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And who is Garth Daybell?
Garth is my older brother.
Would it surprise you to learn or to hear Garth say that she wasn't familiar with paintball guns?
I don't think he said that.
Would it surprise you if he did?
Yeah, that would surprise me.
Did you ever shoot paintball guns with your mom?
No,
Ever see your mom with a paintball gun?
no,
Ever see your mom with a rifle?
no,
Ever see your mom with an assault rifle?
Oh,
no.
wow. That was a powerful moment. Yeah, hang your head, Chud. Hang your head, you loser. What you did to your own children, to Lori's
Did counsel
children.
talk to you about when you learned your mother had been exhumed? Again, do you recall approximately when you learned that?
Yes,
And when was that again?
December 13th.
And you talked about a meeting that you had with
Absolutely.
Detective
Fran.
Hope. Is it that same meeting?
Yes,
Agreed, Robin. Absolutely agreed.
Do you recall at that meeting, Detective Hope inquiring of you or letting you know that they were still concerned with the whereabouts of JJ Vallow?
yes,
Do you recall him telling you that they were still looking for him?
yes,
You talked about seeing Detective Hermosillo at the gym sometime. Do you recall approximately when that was?
it was after my dad had been arrested, so sometime after 2020 or during that year.
And when you met with Detective Hope, do you recall him telling you that all they wanted to see was JJ was safe and find out where he was located?
Yes,
I want to interject this just for people that haven't followed this case very closely. That insurance policy that they just talked about that was signed on September the 9th, that's actually the date that they believe that JJ died. Let that sink in.
Do you recall indicating that you were in contact with your dad at that time?
yes,
Did you ever ask your dad where JJ Vallow was?
yes.
What did he tell you?
He told me that he was in a safe place.
Oh my God.
Did you ever ask your dad where Tylee Ryan was?
Yes,
Or what did he tell you?
in a safe place.
Do you know where JJ and Tylee were found?
Yes,
Where?
in the backyard
Of whose property?
of my dad's property.
Were they safe, Emma? That's what she should have asked. She should have said, were they safe? Lindsay is actually being very compassionate toward Emma, I think. I think she's being very careful when she gets to that information to make a point. She seems to lower her voice, sort of like, I'm sorry to have to do this, right? And that is admirable, truly.
You indicated that you live kitty corner to your parents, or that you did live kitty corner to your parents' residence. Is that right?
Yes, I used to.
What direction was that from your parents' residence?
It was towards Rexburg, which I believe is to the southwest.
And you indicated that on September 8th, you were searching for southwest wind.
Yes,
So you happened to be searching for southwest wind the last day Tylee Ryan was seen alive?
yes,
The day before Alex Cox or a device associated with him was on your dad's property?
yes,
Oh my
The
God.
day before your dad sent your mom a message about shooting a raccoon and burning limbs on that property?
yes,
Did she just say that Emma was searching wind direction? Is that right? Did I hear that right? I was a bit distracted by an email that came in. Is that right? Hey, Kelly O. Good to see you. Oh my God. Oh my God. So why in the world would Chad Daybell let John Pryor put his daughter up on a witness stand to testify to something like that? I'm going to tell you this. Chad Daybell has got to be a sociopath. He does not even have the instincts to protect his own daughter from prison. My goodness. I'm in shock. No, it's the wind. It's the wind.
You talked about your dad, some of the things that he would teach you, including light and dark. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Have you tried to discern light and dark?
Yes.
Did your dad ever teach you about zombies?
No.
Did he ever teach you about castings?
Yes.
And I think you
No.
talked about your mom doing something like that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you qualify that as a casting?
What my mother would do?
Yes.
Yes.
And you said that it helped you.
Yes.
Are you still alive?
Yes.
What? That.
Did your dad teach you about multi-creations?
Yes.
What
You said
is?
he didn't teach you about zombies.
Oh,
Yes.
I think you said your dad was passionate and he enjoyed talking about his views.
Yes.
Your dad ever talked to you about death percentages?
Yes.
no.
Did your dad ever talk to you about people being close to death?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Do you recall any specific people your dad talked to you about being close to death?
Yes.
And who was that?
Well, my mom was one of the people, but it was not death so much as how connected your spirit was to your body.
Did he explain to you anything about the body having to die?
No.
Explain anything to you about the body having to be destroyed?
No.
And again, didn't talk to you about zombies.
No.
Were you privy to all your dad's conversations with people?
No.
But your dad liked to share his views, correct?
Yes.
Your dad ever talked to you about Alex Cox?
No.
Did your dad ever talk to you about Lori Vallow before your mom passed away?
No.
So you don't know what he talked to Lori and Alex about.
I don't.
John Pryor, you are devil spawn.
And counsel talked to you about some of the books your dad writes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Have you read a lot of his books?
All of them.
So are you aware in his autobiography that he indicates the visions in his books are true? Things
Ye-
that he's seen?
Yes.
And is it fair to say the books or were they sold at religious bookstores?
Yes.
So some people may have put more stock into them.
Yes.
And you, counsel talked to you about priesthood blessings a little bit. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And I think you made the statement, a man living the covenants would be worthy or could give a priesthood blessing.
Yes.
Is committing adultery living the covenants?
No.
When did you learn that your dad was having an affair with Lori Vallow?
After he was arrested.
Was it quite a while after he was arrested?
Well, I heard about things in the news after Lori was arrested in February of 2020, but I learned more after he was arrested very shortly after.
You had
Once again, the
cookies
news.
with the woman when your mom
Do you
died.
recall participating in an interview where you indicated that you didn't believe he'd had a physical affair?
Yes,
And that was about sometime in 2021?
yes,
Did you know of the physical affair at that point?
no,
So it was sometime after that that you learned of the physical affair?
yes.
And then I do want to talk to you a little bit about the day that your mom passed away. Were you present at the residence when 911 was first called?
No.
When you arrived at the residence, who else was there?
My father, my older brother Garth, my husband, sheriff's deputy. There may have been two, but I remember one that walked with me from my house. And the coroner was, I think, arriving the same time that I was. I can't remember if she was there before me or not.
Thank you so much, human. You are a very
Were you-
kind human, and I'm
Is it fair to
appreciative of your help.
say your dad had conversations possibly outside of your presence?
Yes,
Were you there when your dad was providing your mom's medical history to Deputy Greenalch, the officer?
yes,
Were you there when he provided it to Deputy Coroner Cammie Wilmore?
yes,
And were you there when he provided it to Coroner Brenda Dye?
yes.
Pam, thank you so much. You have been a good friend to me. And
Did you provide any
panel,
statements
I
about your mom's
appreciate
health
you.
at that time?
Thank you.
I don't remember.
You said that you had serious concerns about her health though, right?
Yes,
But you don't remember if you said anything.
she wasn't talking to me, so I didn't answer her.
At any point, did you reach out to law enforcement to tell them about any concerns you had about your mom's medical conditions?
It wasn't a crime, so no.
Gosh.
You were asked about when your mom was exhumed. Did you know there was going to be an autopsy?
I assumed there would be.
Did you reach out to anyone then to let them know of your concerns?
Family members.
Did you reach out to law enforcement?
No, I didn't feel like they would help me since they were the ones conducting it.
But you didn't reach out to them with any concerns.
No,
And you said you didn't want your mom to get an autopsy. Is that correct?
correct.
Once you learned she'd had one, did you want to see the results?
I did.
Do you recall law enforcement coming to meet with you and you telling them, nope, I don't want to know?
I didn't say that.
Do you recall telling them you didn't want to know?
I don't recall that, so no.
Do you recall not being willing to have them share with you the results of the autopsy?
Judge asked and answered. It's just in a variety of different ways.
Overruled.
Do you recall indicating you did not want to sit down or that you were unwilling to sit down and have them share the autopsy results with you?
No,
You don't recall that.
that's not what I said.
What did you say?
I told them I didn't want to interview with them. I wanted to see the results, and I did not want to discuss it with them.
And do you recall them indicating you wouldn't have to do an interview? They were just going to share the results with you.
They never said that.
Did you in fact decline to see the autopsy?
No, they never offered to let me see it without interviewing with them.
So you were unwilling to sit down with law enforcement.
In that instance, yes.
I think you talked about the morning of your mom's passing, it was difficult to see your dad not in control and in charge.
Yes.
Was it pretty common for your dad to be in control and in charge?
Yes, as the patriarch of our home.
And you were asked about how your dad seemed when your mom passed away. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did your dad ever share with you a text to Lori
No.
that was sent on less than 24 hours after your mother's passing on October 20th of 2019?
My dad didn't share text messages with me.
So would it surprise you to learn that your dad texted that he was sad, but not for the reasons everyone thought?
When I
The yes
first,
or no?
Oh.
Would it surprise you to learn that?
no.
And council talked to you about the events of June 9th of 2020. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And do you recall speaking with your dad on that morning?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask to be handed State's Exhibit 300.
This
Very well.
is so bad, y'all. This is so much worse than I. What are you guys in shock like I am? I mean, I think this young lady is in jeopardy of being arrested. This is really something. If you feel like Emma has put herself in jeopardy with law enforcement, put a 1. If you don't think law enforcement is interested in her and her role in these crimes, put a 2. Agreed, Caledonia. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There is a lot. I am too, Pam. I am just, when you hear me go quiet,
Ms. Blake, if you could make some
they need
identification in the record
psych
before
evals on all these kids. They
publishing, so
need,
we can ensure what is being published.
Yes, Your Honor. And
This
it was
is-
indicated
this
that there
is
may be an
this
A
is
and B, so I
something.
want to
this is
verify
really
before
something.
publication as well that this is the correct one.
All right, thank you.
Well, I thought about that, Justice Jane, but normally the prosecutors will say that they'll call out which witnesses have been given immunity, and the only one so far has been Zulema. Okay, so there seems to be a lot of people that feel like Emma may be in danger here. I'm talking about legally. She has, Kaza. This is devastating to watch. This is really, really sad. Agreed, Diane. So Diane said, I wish he could not speak to any of his kids anymore. That's what I said. I hope that Emma's husband moves
Sorry if I
his
may have just a
whole
moment.
family out of Rexburg and gets her a good psychologist for deprogramming. This is the saddest. I mean, this is really, we are really getting a picture into just how mentally ill Chad Daybell is and the way that he infected every member of his family. No wonder Heather Daybell hates this man. No wonder. No wonder. They need Melanie, Jason Mal, the whole group of them need to be, should have court ordered psych evals. They need to know how wide and deep this goes, because as long as this group of people
And Your
are
Honor,
not
this
walking
is
around, people are in danger.
300A. It is the body cam video from Detective Wheeler that was previously admitted.
Oh, there you
All
go,
right, thank you, Ms.
Emma.
Blake.
And I
Prepare
would ask
yourself,
permission to
girl.
publish from approximately minute 1 well, 1 hour, 2 minutes, 44 seconds.
Take a deep breath, Emma, so you don't faint. My goodness. Ugh. They need some non-emotional data collected from these people to get a picture of what was really happening with this group. This is really something. It's just heartbreaking. So sad.
Sorry, just another moment.
All right, everyone, if you'd like, we can take a stand up, not leave, but stand up break.
Thank you. For some reason, it did not like my computer today. So now starting from 1 hour, 2 minutes, 56 seconds.
Talk to Kat, just stay here with her. So you understand why I have to do that? Yeah. So you just stay here with them. Okay.
Hi. They said I could talk with you and I didn't want you to be alone. I love you so much.
Glad you came.
I thought they had taken you downtown already.
I got them out to the Illinois County line.
We saw it as soon as you left. They chased you down and then they came back.
Ron,
Ron?
just concerning the car.
Huh?
I know they,
I asked them
oh,
about
okay.
it.
What's that?
Oh, just about the car.
Oh, we'll take care of the car. We're gonna take
Is
it.
she able
and then
to
we'll-
get it?
Yeah, you can do that. We may have to go through the car, put your wrist in it,
Right.
the things we gotta do, but then.
She can have her bananas and her,
I gave him
First.
food.
We'll try to get a car before it's 40.
You can eat it.
so Eric, or Ron,
So like my wallet, will that be able for her to pick up, or could I turn it over to her right now?
Is that in the card that here?
It's right here.
It's up to you. I don't see, can I look through it? Just make
Sure.
They're going to get Mark.
Lisa.
No,
Oh.
Garth.
Is there anything that you're gonna need in that?
Well, she'll be running my finances, I suppose, so. That has a little money on it. You could,
Okay. So these are credit cards, so you're good if she just takes them,
yeah.
correct?
um, In the middle drawer on the left side in Mark's room, there's about $9,000 in 2 white envelopes.
Okay.
So get that. Yeah, so we'll talk more about car payments and stuff, but you have that password.
I do.
I believe the Hawaiian,
That's this one.
First Hawaiian Bank, if you use that same password for this account, it's Chad Daybell. That's what else is in here. Producer here. This has nothing on it. It's like $6. That has to go away. So this, okay, in that same drawer. Is a piece of this that would fit in here, and it's got the company card, company business card. And so just make sure you get that.
And this is all in Mark's room.
Yeah, I put that in there. There's like a pamphlet with a guy who's sitting in a car. It's for the Wells Fargo auto loan.
That's the loan that they went out.
Yeah, and so that we'll talk about. So this has, if you go to Telmate, this is the card that's used.
Okay.
And so all you really do, you could probably just sign in as Chad.Daybell or start your own.
I have an account that I've been talking with Lori on.
Okay. But you could use this
To
card,
add money.
yeah, and to her if needed.
Okay.
That is a nightmare that this girl is giving money to Lori Vallow, the
Yeah, she
murderer of
needs to
her
still have
mother.
commissary money. Usually puts 30 a week in there. So. And you can probably talk to her too.
Okay.
Mhm. I'm sorry.
I love you so much.
Cooperate with them as much as you feel. You know,
They've been kind to us today. I texted John Pryor, so he has my number. He said thank you.
okay.
Old Chud didn't get all choked up crying,
A
hugging
lot of the
Emma, did he?
company stuff that pays for the house should just auto pay still out of that company account. You know, they
I'm
left
so sorry,
5,000 in there.
Martian Planet.
Okay.
If you need something, come find me.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions you have?
I think. Well, it sounds like you're not gonna be out. in a little
Right.
while. So I think I'm gonna. My landlord texted me just to feel bad for me. I think I'm gonna come over here.
That's what I needed you to say, because, yeah, you and Joe and whatever Mark wants to do, he should stay with either you
I'll
and me.
take care of Mark. He'll take care of me. That's the card. I will, Dad. He'll take care of me. He'll take care of you the best we can. Sorry to interrupt.
So keep paying the mortgage out of the company.
Okay,
No, you can probably set it up though.
okay.
I'm trying to, it's Wells Fargo. In that same pamphlet. Remember the password.
I'll look,
But-
but I've had a lot of success with mom stuff, just saying, will you help me? My mom died. I'm pretty sure. Will you help me? My dad's in jail. It's the same.
It should be
Holy
paid.
crap. She just said she uses her mother's death to manipulate people. Well, I guess this apple didn't far fall from the tree.
Through July 1st.
Okay,
And I think the car is paid through July 15th. So you shouldn't have any bills to worry about. Yeah, I'm not coming back. So all that stuff that's in the baby room is Lori's and mine. The suitcases you'll see in the box. Just put it in the garage, I guess.
Burn
after.
them.
store it, see what happens.
You guys can, yeah, take that mattress from upstairs, I guess, that you want, put the books back on the shelf. We're gonna make it through.
You putt.
I'm glad we could talk. I'm glad they let you come over.
I started crying as Lieutenant Ball went, do you want to talk to him? And I'm like, can I? He said, he's just over there. It's like, oh, that changes things. You probably saw us out there.
Yeah, that's right. So, hopefully things will slow down for you guys and get left alone. But yeah, they'll let you move out of there. You just get over here. You know, get Garth.
Well, I
It still feels better.
I would be so confused. That's what the spirit was telling me, but I didn't know how it. I felt like I needed to learn more,
Mm.
and now I get it.
So yeah, this is essentially your house, and we'll talk to John Pryor about the financial arrangement, but you should be fine for a while.
I think long enough to get on our feet.
And stopping at 111.54.
Incredible.
Do you recall this conversation with your dad?
Yes.
And when you first walked up, your dad didn't ask you if you knew why he was arrested, did he?
No.
Do you recall a conversation in there about moving a mattress from upstairs and putting the books on the shelves or something along those?
Yes.
Where was the upstairs?
It was in the top of the cozy cone.
So there was a mattress in there?
Just,
cozy
he had just
cone.
barely put it there. Typically, no one lived up there. It's like the one time of year that the temperature actually cooperated. There just wasn't room at the house. There's a lot of people living there at the time.
So there wasn't upstairs that had room for a mattress though?
Yeah.
And there was some talk in there about some cash that he wanted you to have. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And he talked to you about how to pay the mortgage
Yes.
and talked to you about letting you take the car.
Yes.
And prior to that, or around the same time, do you recall him making an $8,000 deposit into your account?
Yes.
Do you recall conversation that day about a body being located?
Yes.
And do you recall then a conversation about a second body being looked for?
A conversation with my dad?
Yes.
Yes.
Whose bodies were those?
Tylee, Ryan, and JJ Vallow.
I have nothing further.
All right, thank you.
That was really magnificent. That was really magnificent by Lindsay Blake. Hey, Avi.
All right, Mr. Pryor, redirect. 151. Okay, we've got that. We'll have it presented.
Counsel, do you want this? I can keep it if you'd like. No? No, sure. Thank you. And Judge, may I publish?
Yes.
Thank you. On the Elmo.
What just
Emma, I'm
happened?
looking at
Emma
the
just made herself a suspect in a conspiracy
life
to
map
commit murder.
insurance. And is that the one you talked about with Taylor Ballard?
Yes,
You previously testified that your dad would sign if he was also applying for coverage. Do you recall that?
yes,
Could you do me a favor under your dad's do you recognize which one is your dad's signature there?
yes,
Second one, right?
yes.
Below your mom's? And would you read starting with spouse's signature?
Spouse's signature if applying for coverage.
And what did you understand that to mean?
Either my dad was applying for coverage or my mom didn't read the directions.
But it was your understanding at the time that the decision and the amount of coverage was a decision your mother made at that time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the prosecuting attorney, Ms. Blake, talked to you about whether your dad discussed with you where the children were, correct?
Yes,
Was there ever a discussion with your dad that
1 minute, I spoke and I was muted, so my apology. How many of you believe a woman who started a publishing company would think that she was supposed to sign the signature of her husband on a legal document? Do you believe that Tammy Daybell would do that? Absolutely not. She understands documents. She is a librarian. Shame on you, Emma. Shame on you.
dad discussed with you where the children were, correct?
yes,
Was there ever a discussion with your dad that Lori Vallow was concealing the location of the children from everyone?
yes,
And as part of that, your dad never knew where the children were. Is that correct?
yes,
What he did know is that Ms. Vallow had indicated to him that the children were safe.
yes.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay and speculation.
Oh, it's untimely, overruled.
So is it your understanding that your dad never knew where the children were, but only that they were safe?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay and speculation.
Sustained.
I want to talk lastly about one other subject that the prosecuting attorney brought up. She mentioned to you that why you never brought up an issue about your mother getting an autopsy. Do you recall the day that your mother was exhumed?
I think it was December 11th.
Okay, and then the first time you learned about an autopsy and that your mother had been dug out of the ground would have been on what day?
December 13th.
So do you think that it would have been practical for you after they conducted the autopsy and dug your mother out of the ground to file an objection or complain?
It was already completed.
I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right. I will conclude the testimony of this witness then. Thank you for appearing. You can go ahead and step down. Can she be released from any subpoena, counsel?
Judge, in the event something comes up during the testimony, I'd like to keep her under subpoena at this point.
Okay, and that's fine. You are still under subpoena, so you may be subject to return. You're not subject to the court's order on exclusions, so you can talk to counsel if you have any questions about that. Thank you for appearing again.
And cut your hair and put your hair back to its rightful color and stop trying to look like a
My
mass
preference would
murderer.
be to get started with another witness.
Ago, I had trouble recalling which was which.
Okay, so they're back from lunch, y'all, and I'm going to switch to the live. I'm trying to see where Garth comes in.
But would you agree that it's more of a fundamental, it's not necessarily as
Okay.
mainstream as it once was?
Yes.
We
Okay,
are,
so it would be more akin to your father's beliefs.
I don't know if it's one that would be told as often anymore.
Okay.
we're
And in
very
that
close to
particular
live. We're
situation,
about 5 minutes off of the live.
This is the prophet of your
broadcast.
church, Joseph Smith.
Yes.
And at that point, he expelled the devil or the demon from Newell Knight.
Yes.
Did Newell Knight die after they expelled the demon from him?
No, he went on to do great things.
Okay, and at some point, is it your understanding that when someone expels a dark spirit or a negative spirit, that they die after that?
No, they continue living.
Okay. Judge, I don't have anything else at this point. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
I'm going to start with, there was some talk of who drove a Dodge Dakota. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And there seemed to be maybe a little bit of confusion there.
I believe that since the events were 7 years ago, I had trouble recalling which was which.
And your recollection is that your dad is actually the one that drove it in the later years?
Yes,
Do you know Joseph Murray?
I do.
How do you know him?
He is my brother-in-law.
Why would Joe Murray in 2019, October of 2019 to be exact, would it surprise you to learn that he referred to the truck as your mom's?
I hadn't heard of that.
Would it surprise you to learn that he had to return the keys, get the keys from her to borrow the truck and then return them to her?
I hadn't heard of that.
So your mom did in fact drive the Dodge Dakota, at least at times?
She did on occasion.
You talked about your dad telling you about a raccoon that he'd shot around September 9th of 2019. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you said that he buried it.
Mhm.
Do you remember where he buried it?
He buried it
First.
behind, sorry.
No, I cut you off. I apologize. Do you remember where he said he buried it?
He showed me that it was behind the silver shed.
Were you present when he buried it?
I was not.
And you talked about having some concerns about your mom getting winded. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you ever share those concerns with law enforcement or the coroner or deputy coroner that showed up on the day of your mother's passing?
I don't recall.
Did you ever share those concerns with law enforcement?
I wouldn't have considered losing your breath to be something law enforcement would be worried about.
At some point, did you learn that an autopsy was going to be conducted on your mom?
I did after I had learned she had been exhumed.
And even with an autopsy being performed, you didn't think that it might be something law enforcement would want to know?
I assumed they would find it.
Did you ever shoot paintball guns with your mom?
I did not.
Did you ever see her with a paintball gun?
I did not.
Did you ever see her with an assault rifle?
I did not.
Would it surprise you if Deputy Cannon said he was never shown an image of a paintball gun on October 9th of 2019?
It would, because he was there.
I think you testified that initially when your mom came running in, you were upset.
Yes.
They're literally saying the
Is it fair to
police
say you
lied.
wanted to catch whoever this was that had pointed some kind of a gun at her?
Yes, I wanted to catch them.
When you ran outside, did you see anyone?
I did not. It was so dark that I couldn't. Yeah, he could have been anywhere.
And you said it was so dark that night?
When I went out, yes.
And you were asked about the events of October 19th of 2019 from council. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I want to back up a little bit. Do you recall when you got home from work?
It was a little after 1.
And what did you do when you got home from work?
I pulled into the driveway, went in the house, and got ready for bed. And then, as I said earlier, I watched YouTube for a few hours.
Did you see either of your parents when you got home?
They were both in bed.
And how did you know they were both in bed?
I saw their forms, their shapes in the bed as I passed by their room.
Did you go in and talk to them?
I did not. They were asleep.
You say they were asleep, but did you actually go in the room?
I assumed they were asleep.
So 2 bodies lying in the bed.
Yes.
Anyone else in the house when you got home?
It was just us.
What woke you up on the morning of October 19th of 2019?
I thought I heard a thump, and then I heard my dad say, "Garth, come help."
And when you went in the room, well, let me back up. Did you in fact go in the room?
I did.
What did you see when you got in there?
I saw her halfway off the bed with her legs still entangled in the blankets.
And what action, if any, did you take at that time?
I immediately thought she needs my help, so I lifted her immediately back up into the bed.
Were you close
And
with your
she
mom?
was in rigor
Extremely
mortis.
And council talked to you about May 7th of 2021. Do you recall that?
I do.
Do you recall law enforcement actually knocking on your door?
I do not. They waited till I was at my car.
And do you recall when you got to the police station that they left the door open to the interview room?
They did.
And do you recall that they immediately told you they'd call your attorney?
I believe I had to ask for one.
And did your attorney in fact show up?
A few hours later,
And was your attorney present for questioning?
he was.
Did law enforcement actually get you breakfast?
They did buy me some McDonald's. They offered and I accepted.
And prior to May 7th, had you had a meeting with law enforcement?
I'm sorry. What? You just picked your mother's rigor mortis body up off the ground, laid it in a bed, And then you had McDonald's breakfast with the cops? My, I'm 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 speechless.
Where they had talked to you about the results of your mom's autopsy?
Yes, Detective Aikamanu and a FBI agent came to my classroom after school.
And when they talked to you, were you willing to hear them out on the results?
They did tell me the results.
And do you recall on May 7th going over that autopsy again?
I did not.
Do you recall one of the detectives telling you that your mother's death
Sustained.
Do you recall talking to an individual named Micaiah Baglin and telling him you found your mom dead in her bed and your dad gone?
I don't recall talking to him about that.
Do you recall talking to Cara Briggs, who's now Cara Daybell, and Emma Moss about finding your mom on the couch?
I told Kara, she's now my wife.
That you found your mom on the sofa?
And there was talk of some testimony at some grand juries. Do you recall that? Sorry, let me back up. Let me rephrase that. Do you recall counsel asking you about having testified at a couple proceedings?
Sorry, I was I don't quite know the rules, but when you were talking to me about Kara and Emma, can you repeat that question? I don't know if
Yes. Do you recall telling Cara and or Emma about finding your mom on the couch?
I did not tell them that she was on the couch.
Do you recall having talked to one or both of them?
I do. I had told them that the night before I had seen her on the couch as she said goodbye to me.
And if they were to say something different, would that surprise you?
I mean, I've heard that before.
This poor boy.
And then do you recall counsel
poor
talking to
kid.
you about you having testified at a couple grand jury proceedings?
Yes.
If Chad Daybell had a soul, he'd put a stop to
And
this
are you
part
aware
right now.
that the second grand jury was held based on the request of the first grand jury?
Judge, I'm going to object. That calls for speculation.
I'm asking her if he's
Argumentative,
aware.
Judge.
Well, the question.
There's no
is-
foundation.
Yes, just the question is whether he's aware. You can answer.
Are you aware that the second grand jury was conducted based on the request of the first grand jury?
I was not aware of that.
And counsel asked you about Joseph Smith in a casting. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And what did you indicate happened to the person that they were casting on?
He continued to live on and lived his life.
Are you aware of your mom having been designated as being possessed?
I had not heard that before.
Had you ever heard of JJ Vallow being designated as being possessed?
I had not heard that.
What about Tylee Ryan?
I had not heard that.
Is your mom still alive?
She is not.
Do you know where the remains of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow were located?
They were found in the backyard
And when you say the backyard, whose backyard?
of my father's.
Wow.
I have no further questions.
Wow. Wow. This was so painful. Chad Daybell, you are this guy.
Redirect, Mr. Pryor.
Garth, regardless of what the first grand jury may or may not have believed, did you understand that the second grand jury was convened to determine whether or not you were being untruthful in any way and whether you should face perjury charges?
And that's the way I understood it.
Okay. And again, who brought that grand jury against you?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained.
And your recollection and your belief is that you were not indicted by the grand jury, correct?
That is correct.
And did you feel like that someone was trying to intimidate or threaten you to change your testimony?
I do, yes.
And who would that be?
Madison and Fremont County.
Judge, that's all I have at this point. And Judge, we need to sidebar just very briefly.
Very
And,
well.
Your Honor, before we do that, I would request a brief recross
On what topic?
on the topic of the furtherance of the grand jury and what he believed.
Just on that very narrow topic, Ms. Blake, I'll allow that and we'll have the sidebar after that.
Thank you.
But Ms. Blake, not to expand the scope of where it's already gone on, Director Cross, please.
Mr. Daybell, did you in fact change your testimony between the first and second grand jury?
I did not.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, counsel.
Just sidebar, Judge.
Very well.
Long sidebar.
Council, we're looking at scheduling here with the afternoon, and there's a matter we need to take up with the next witness outside the presence of the public and the jurors. And I understand it will be a fairly quick witness after that, and the matter won't take long, but we do need to do that on the record. And so we're going to arrange a spot to meet with the witness and counsel outside the presence of the courtroom. I am going to ask that everybody just remain in the courtroom while we take care of that business. Optional if you'd like, but everybody, of course, is allowed to stand up and stretch if you'd like. If you do leave the courtroom, though, you won't be permitted re-entry, and we'll try to resolve that as quickly as possible and then have that witness take the stand. So we'll go ahead and go on the record outside the presence of everyone, take up this issue, and then we'll be right back.
I wonder who the witness is. Do y'all know? We should end up now being fully on live. Yep, that's it. Okay, we're live right now, y'all. Yep. Well, do we know? Do y'all want to take a guess? Who's the witness? Julie Rowe. Oh, there's a thought. John Pryor's a bigger snake than I thought before. Oh, the fact that Chad Daybell put his own skin and more important, and exposed his son and daughter to this, tell me that this is not a guy completely devoid of humanity. Deuce-a-doo, 222. You think it's Lori? You think it's the love goddess? I hope not. I'm not sure I can take Lori after what we just witnessed. Hey, Kaz, it's okay. That would be something. Yeah, it would if it turned out to be Lori. Y'all remember the video that I made that John Pryor and Chad or Chud, that they have a secret. They've got something sneaky up their sleeves. Got something sneaky up his sleeve. Should be very interesting what is about to happen. So what do you guys think was the most shocking thing you've heard today? Emma getting confused? So did you find yourself feeling sad for Garth? You think it's Garth's wife? Is it Kara? You think Kara is the next witness? Maybe it's Colby. Agree, DB. It is like they've just erased Tammy. Long sidebar, must be something going on. Who have we not heard from? We've heard Felony Melanie, David Warwick. We have not heard from Seth.
This is so boring. Oh, so boring.
Now remember, we are streaming Cresha,
don't
so
think-
that's Cresha talking on her
I don't
channel.
think I would be moved at all by these testimonies if I was on a jury. Man, I was taking and again, y'all know how I process things. I don't quite get it the first round, but the second round, that's ass, right? So I've got to go back and listen to it again, but it just sounded pretty damning to Chad. But that's just me.
It really did. No, you're right, Cresha.
I mean, that's what I was getting from the testimony, from Garth's testimony too. Mainly Garth's testimony. I was like, oh my God, she was dead already. She was already dead, is what I got from it. And then I was reading comments though, and so I was kind of confused. Why they looking back there in the corner? What's going on over there? Thank you, little brands. Whole ass hugs to you too. Lauren and Dr. John are going live right after court. Yeah. Thank you, Jean Marie. So brief break before the next witness. I wonder, y'all think we're going to have an early day? I know, right? Chrissy, do they not have a bedroom door? I mean, he heard thud. He brought her a Big Mac. And again, you could hear where Pryor insinuated, oh, a Big Mac, that's very healthy. Okay. That's another punch to Tammy was out of shape. She was just wore out. KJ says Garth said he quote he had heard that he told Emma or his wife that Tammy died on the couch. That's just another damn account, you know. I'm like, bring out the interrogation tapes. I want to see somebody get damn interrogated here. This is bull crap. Oh yeah, definitely Kelly Louise. In UK, it's abuse of power for a teacher to date a pupil at same school if they're still a pupil. And so that was, and so what Kelly is talking about is I had found, or I think my mods had sent this to me from Reddit, Reddit post, and it was by Garth's brother-in-law. Now it's now his brother-in-law, and he made a post about his sister who is now Garth's wife. Okay, and he's not happy about it. But it was pretty long too. But I mean, down to the point where Garth is he's an eighth grade, well, I already forgot, teacher at a middle school. And he met his now wife when she was 16. And they allegedly did not fool around or anything until she turned 18, graduated, and there he is. Okay, so she was 16, he was 26. So he waited till she was 18.
Gross.
And he's 28. Got it?
Gross.
And somebody, who was it that just mentioned? Mohawk Mom. Yes, they got married too. All right, I'm gonna shut up.
Thank you. Please be seated. Very well. At this point, then, I believe the testimony of the witness has concluded. Is the defense intending to keep the witness under subpoena?
No, Your Honor.
I don't know if the state had him under subpoena or not.
The state also had a subpoena. We would release Mr. Daybell as well.
Okay, thank you. That concludes your testimony. You can go ahead and step down.
But Emma did not get released. Emma did not get released.
Judge, can I have
Very
permission to
interesting.
approach the podium?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Y'all saw him look over there at his daddy when he was grabbing his backpack.
All right, Mr. Pryor, you can call your next witness.
Defense would call Forrest Fisher.
Very well.
The attorney.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Can I speak directly into the microphone? Thank you. May I, Judge?
You may. You can.
Would you state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Thank you. Yes, William Forrest Fisher. Fisher is Fischer.
Mr. Fisher, how are you employed?
I am an attorney with Moulton Law Office in Driggs, Idaho.
Okay, and you're licensed to practice law in the state of Idaho?
I am.
Did you have an occasion in December of 2021 in regards to a client by the name of Garth Daybell?
I did.
What was the nature of that representation?
As part of my employment, my office contracts out with Fremont County to do contract public defense work. And so under that contract, I was asked to come down to St. Anthony to the Fremont County Courthouse to represent Mr. Daybell, who at that time was under a grand jury testimony situation.
Was it a grand jury indictment against Mr. Daybell? Or proceeding?
It was a proceeding.
Okay, and the distinction is that a grand jury is summoned and they hear testimony, is that right?
I believe so. This was actually my first encounter with a grand jury.
Oh, okay. Lucky you.
Yes.
And at that point, were you aware of what charges were being attempted to be brought against Mr. Daybell?
I was not, nor that I can't really recall it this time.
Okay. But you do recall that it was Mr. Daybell was the focus of the grand jury?
Mr. Garth Daybell, yeah, that is correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And you don't have any recollection of what the underlying facts were about why he was brought in front of the grand jury?
Not specifically. It was a long time ago. I can't really recall. I do recall at that time he had actually previously testified in front of the grand jury. And when I was brought in, the grand jury had some follow-up questions, and that's what I was called in to assist him with during that time.
So you don't remember if this was a second grand jury that was convened?
I believe it was the second time they called him in. I'm not sure if that was a completely separate grand jury. I believe it was the same grand jury, but I can't really recall.
You're not sure about that?
That's correct.
Okay. Is it possible that it was a second grand jury convening against Mr. Daybell for perjury?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Do you have any recollection of the advice that you gave Mr. Daybell at that point?
Some. At that time, I had come in and Mr. Garth at Daybell had some questions. He was concerned, given the fact that they had asked him some questions and he had previously testified. And so I consulted him as a defense attorney to answer only the question that was being asked, and that if he wasn't quite sure, that he could take the time to confer with me. I was not in the grand jury. I wasn't observing it. I was sitting outside of the courtroom. I told him that if he ever needed to take a break, he could come talk to me. We could talk about the situation and go from there. Beyond that, I told him not to talk to the press anymore.
Okay. And at this point, you don't have any distinct recollection as to why you were there or what you were doing. Is that right?
I was there to advise him on giving testimony in his follow-up grand jury questioning. And my role as a defense attorney, and I believe in talking to Mr. Daybell at that time, was to ensure that he did not get himself into any trouble by possibly committing perjury or not remembering something quite correctly. I was there to assist him and to ensure that he, if he had questions, that he could come and talk to me and that we could go through it on a step-by-step basis.
Do you recall ever telling Mr. Daybell that this was a trap designed to catch him?
I don't recall ever saying that, though that would possibly be something that I might have said. I don't recall specifically.
Okay.
As a defense attorney, that's always something that we're concerned about, is that if they previously testified on something, that if they're called to testify on the same thing again, that there is the potential as a defense attorney to potentially cross yourself. And so to watch out for that.
And your understanding is the focus of the grand jury wasn't about Chad Daybell. It was solely about Garth Daybell in his previous testimony. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And at this point, your understanding is that grand jury did not indict Mr. Daybell for any kind of perjury charge. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Judge, I have nothing else.
All right. Any cross?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Fisher, it was your understanding then that it was the same grand jury with some additional questions?
I don't really, I presume, but I didn't know for sure.
And at the end of the day, you provided legal advice to your client, correct?
That is correct.
And he testified in that second proceeding,
That is correct.
and there was no indictment.
That is correct.
I have no further questions.
All right. Thank
No
you.
follow-up, Judge.
Very well. That'll conclude the testimony, Mr. Fisher. Thank you for appearing.
Thank
See
you, Your
back
Honor.
in Driggs someday.
All right. Thank you.
I have cases out there as well. All right, at this point, given the time, I think this will be a good stopping point for the mid-afternoon break. Is that what council would request as well?
Yes, Your Honor, if that's the court's prerogative, I think that would be appropriate.
All right, we'll go ahead and take our mid-afternoon break then. We'll plan on starting right back up at 2:30, please.
All right, please.
Well, okay. I'm pretty horrified by this whole Garth Kara information. The age range is just terrible. The fact that he's in a position of power over her as a teacher, terrible. And the fact that Chad Daybell just accepts child bride. I mean, she wasn't technically a child bride, but are we really going to believe?
So, can y'all hear me?
So, I don't know. What do you guys think? It is so Mr. Deadeye's lawyer putting distance. Yeah, he's like, I don't know nothing about nothing. Don't get me involved, right? And yet, who believes? I mean, let's be honest here. Do you believe that a professional licensed attorney would go to a grand jury and not take a notepad? I mean, lawyers take notes so much that the paper is actually called a legal pad. You know, the yellow paper, right? This idea that Fisher goes in there to represent a client, and can I just say this too? Can I say this? It's not just any old client, is it? It is a guy who is the son of the most notorious true crime case that we've had in 5 years. Just absolutely huge case. Everybody heard about it. And if you were a lawyer, you know damn well you were talking about it to your colleagues. You know they were. Now, this little clown takes the stand and wants to make us think, oh, well, I just sat there and I didn't know if it was the first grand jury or the second grand jury or the third grand jury. And I don't know what the questions were. And I don't know what they were doing. And I don't remember what I told Garth. I don't remember. Stop, Fisher. Stop. You look like a moron. You'll never, ever, ever get another client. Ever. He said, oh, well, it was my first encounter with a grand jury. Maybe your last encounter as a licensed attorney based on the way you just performed on the witness stand. Of course, he has notes. Of course, he has a file with the information about Garth and what they did, what their work entailed. Of course, he does. I wish that they would try to file charges against this joker for obstruction of justice. I've never heard anything like that in my life. Do you know what would happen to me if I showed up and said, nope, sorry, Judge, I didn't take any notes at all about my client. None whatsoever. That's not true. It's just, it's goofy and strange that he even did that. It's goofy. He's like, don't know nothing about never mind. Don't get me involved. Craziness. So essentially, Garth said he walked in, he found his mother on the sofa, and Dad was nowhere around. Which means that Chad went to hide and Alex came in and done the dirty deed. And then what happened? Chad and Garth carried the dead mother to the bed. Chad and Garth carried his dead mom to the bed and let her lie there in rigor mortis all night long. And Chad slept in the bed with her. My God. Yeah, Angel. Oh my goodness, Angel. So true. It's kind of attorneying 101. Bring paper and pen. Thank you. It's called a legal pad, for goodness sake. This is just nuts. Thank you so much, Cinnamon. This is Kresha's link to her channel. That's who I'm actually streaming today to give her the view. Most of my people watch Kresha and are already subscribed and everything, but I invite you to go over there and listen through her channel if you want to, please. She's a great person. I'm just blown away by this. I needed someone to talk to. I just couldn't believe my ears. It's crazy. I am biased because I think the regular church brainwashes their people too. They are all nice, but gullible people. Makes zero sense. Should be the LSD church. Diane, you killing me, girl.
And my boys are about to walk in. All right. Well, okay. Yep. Let's listen to the lies.
911, where's your emergency? We're at 202 North, 1900 East. What's going on? We just found my mom. She's on the ground frozen, or she's stiff, and I don't know.
What?
Are you in Madison County or Fremont County? I'm Chad, the husband.
What just happened? We found my mom frozen on the ground. Wait, what? I don't know. Hi there. Chad Daybell on the line. What the actual hell?
She's clearly dead. We don't know.
He says she's clearly dead and then laughs? Garth needs to be arrested. Emma needs to be arrested. And Chad Daybell needs the death penalty.
Okay. Okay. Are you in Rexburg or... Because your address shows Rexburg address, but you're in Fremont County?
It's a mile past.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, shut up, Chad. You're not crying. Nut.
Yeah, she's not even, she's frozen.
Yeah, rigor mortis.
Yeah, he says it right there too. I'm gonna unmute
Okay,
you.
can I get
Or
your name?
unmute yourself, whatever.
Chad, Daybell. Oh, man.
Oh.
Okay, Chad, I'm going to get somebody up to you right now, okay?
Oh.
Yeah, the corner where the blinking yellow light is with the red house.
Yes, sir. Red house on the corner.
Yeah.
And he's crying.
Blinking yellow light.
Right.
Okay. We'll get somebody out to you, okay? I'm so sorry.
Okay.
If you need anything else, call me back, okay? Okay, bye-bye.
Little dabble do, huh?
Crash is just like me.
He's so
Ma'am, to the best of your recollection, was that particular phone call related to your response to Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Prior to responding to this, let me withdraw that. To the best you recall, what time of day was it that you were responding?
It was approximately 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And was it light outside yet?
I don't think so.
You don't know?
Prior to your response that morning, how many times had you personally been involved with responding to an unattended death?
Probably 5 to 10.
And when you did, in fact, arrive, what was the first thing that you observed?
I observed Garth Daybell in the living room. He's the one that let me into the house. And then Chad came into the living room shortly after I arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked them what was going on and to show me where Tammy was.
And did they do that?
They did.
Let me pause and ask, at that point in time, was anybody else at the home?
No.
Did anybody else later arrive at the home that morning?
Yes.
Who do you recall arriving at the home?
The deputy coroner arrived, the coroner arrived, and then some family members also arrived later.
And for the jury's sake, to the best we can identify those people by
They've
name.
sacrificed all
Yes,
these.
sorry, the deputy coroner, Cammie Wilmore, the coroner, Brenda Dye, and I'm not sure who the family was. I didn't speak with them after
Yeah.
they arrived.
Were you aware if there was a male or female family member that arrived?
I think both. Several of his children showed up as
Oh, yeah.
well.
So you were explaining that you arrived and you made contact with Garth and then Chad?
Correct.
Just to help the jury have a picture in their mind, what was the layout of the home, the best that you can recall?
Oh, Lord.
The living room is the first room that you come into, and then there's a hallway to the right. There are several bedrooms and a bathroom. Directly behind the living room across the hallway was the kitchen, and then to the left was the garage.
Okay. And relative to the front door, did you come in the front door?
I did.
Relative to that front door,
7.
where is the
Liza.
room that you ultimately saw Tammy's body in?
To the right at the end of the hallway.
When you came through the front door, where do you recall both Garth and or Chad being inside the home?
In the living room.
Okay,
So-
I gotta stop because just when I read that comment just now, I gotta go back. Oh, I gotta find it again. Who was it? This Jean Marie and Beach Bum says, "Yep." And remember, an image was deleted. That makes me so curious. Do y'all think because like with the pattern here, the history, we have JJ on a couch on a ride by himself, the couch was the last image of him alive. Then you have Tylee with those sad selfies, okay, of her, which put physical evidence, it proved physical evidence, because her necklace and charm was found on Chad Daybell's property as well, not far from the burn, from the fire pit. So that was the last picture, and the one in Yellowstone too. You see what I'm saying? So was that last picture that was deleted on Tammy's phone, was that a trophy? And if so, I mean, it just seems like they can find these things. I don't know. It bothers me. Let me finish this right here.
So could you explain again, what was the first conversation that you had with either one?
I asked them where Tammy was and what had happened, and then they walked me back to the bedroom where her body was.
At that point in time, did either one of them seem to have any emotion or anything like that going on?
Yes.
Both, or which one?
Chad was definitely more emotional than Garth was. He was sobbing and then would gasp for air. Garth was a little bit more reserved and didn't say very much.
So when you got back to the room where Tammy was, what was the first thing that you observed?
I observed Tammy's body on the bed, and her feet were hanging off the corner of the bed, and the mattress was pushed off the box spring just a little bit, and she was covered up with a blanket up to about her shoulders.
But then Garth testified just now to pulling his mom back on the bed by her shoulders. Just, it's weird. We know it's debunked, but the necklace, the charm, it was a Pura Vida necklace, and it was found not far from the fire pit. It was Tylee's, and it corroborates. It actually is the first physical evidence that I've seen. That kind of goes. That just goes along with the territory here. Crazy. Okay. Necklace. Or let me put Tylee. Try to make this faster. Oh, and I could do that for Joe Murray too, and Emma Daybell at the Operation Underground Railroad race. And like Sue Ellen brought up a good question earlier that I hadn't thought about. Operation Underground Railroad, that fundraiser was September 7th, 2019, which Emma and Joseph Murray ran in. making connections here. And she asked if maybe Tim had helicoptered in on that event too. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what if they were there, for Tylee and stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, because there's not much around Tylee's. There wasn't like a firm foundation or whatever. Okay, I found this picture. Let me just switch this. Okay. I mean, these are just, hold on. This isn't the picture, but these are, I had put it on this. So this pendant right here, right there, that was found on Chad Daybell's property. They actually had that physical evidence in the courtroom for the jury, for the jurors. So bless their hearts, man. I'm so sorry, Tylee. God.
That
And
looks like
I'm so,
Chad Daybell's property. She knew she was
these
about to
babies.
die.
This is fake. Just like Chad, just like Garth, just
Oh
like
my
Emma.
God.
That's Slugette and forget what somebody said. Slug Junior. I know it wasn't Slug Junior. This one right here. Yeah. Oh, I can't make it bigger, but yeah. He's like, yeah, got the house, got some money, got a free trip to Knott's Berry Farm, just living my best life.
Evil, evil, evil,
I'm
evil, evil.
I typed in Tylee here, so it's got everything Tylee. All right, let me try Joseph Murray.
Evil.
Joseph Murray. Okay. So here, okay. And it doubles and triples my pictures all the time. So, all right. So here's Joseph and Emma. Okay. Let me back out because that's not a good, that's not either. It's a very grainy photo, right? Screenshot. There's the baby. There's Joseph. There's Emma. There's the finish line.
How old is
I don't know
Joseph?
why it's so bad.
He
Unless
looks
it's just
30
not
years older
focusing
than
in on
her.
it. A fundraiser for Operation Underground Railroad. I can't read all that. Let me back out of it. Maybe it'll, nope. All right, let me go here. This was from the Leanne Enderly Hicks open discussion. The events around JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan is a private group. But okay, so she says, listen to this. It's Joseph Murray. Weird to hear his voice, the clown. And so here's that link. And then September 7th, 2019, Chad's wife, Tammy, volunteers at a Rexburg Rescue Run event. Chad was not present. Chad was not present with Tammy at the events. Web Sleuth verified insider posts. And so I'll switch to that real quick. Okay, let me keep going. Oh, well, here's another one. This. Okay, I don't even know where this came from. Also, fact, Dawson Murray, Joseph Murray's brother, started his journey to become a correctional officer in December. That'd be 2019. And in February, he became one in the Rexburg jail, same place where Lori is being held. This, I think, oh yeah, that's Kathy Brooks. So that's left undone. I just took a picture of my TV. This was back in the days. So Sheila, Jack, Daybell, love you guys. It's just because he was giving her hell. Okay. Left undone. He was giving her hell. And I believe it. I'm sorry, y'all. It was so long ago. But yeah.
Wow, he looks like her dad.
Then this is just too freaking much. Okay. There's a little baby. That's Joseph. That's Emma. This is Chad Daybell's property. They in the pasture here. They're getting rid of dirt. They put up a ad to sell dirt and bricks. I shit you not. You can't make this stuff up.
No.
This is another thing. Jason Mao, great evening speaking and sharing the stage with Tim Ballard from Operation Underground Railroad. This, thanks to all who came out and I don't even know what that says. As we talked about being true warriors, right? This is at Tammy's funeral. There's Garth. There's Joseph. There's her grandbaby. And there's Chud. Look, he got his wedding ring on. Straight up. Okay. Hold on, I'm just trying to figure out where to get in here. Okay, I thought it would be a lot more. I saw this post earlier. Where is it at? Right here. Let me try and read this down here. That's what I'm trying to get to. There we go. And so this was also a screenshot included in the same post I was showing earlier on September 7th, 2019, in this Facebook group. And so this is a screenshot too, and it says, Becky McKnight, what is Operation Underground? Joseph Murray says, we are a nonprofit organization that fights sex, human trafficking throughout the world. We rescue and provide aftercare. That's a key word. I just realized that. Aftercare to victims. And then he leaves the website there and the link. And she says, Joseph Murray, thank you. And then I don't know what else it says. Okay. So did Tim and all his idiots come in? Were they there around the same time that, I mean, if Tim went to his own event, the Rexburg Run, right, to raise money for his stupid ass, fake ass, it's just wrong, right? His cause, the noble cause of allegedly saving trafficked children from sex trafficking, which we know that's not what's happening. So that was April 30th, 2020. Joseph Murray, teach them while they're young.
Oh my
That's what he wrote.
God.
Teach them while they're young.
Oh my
April 30th,
God.
10:45 a.m. Joseph Murray to East Idaho yard sale, retaining wall blocks. Retaining wall blocks. This is after, wait, April 30th.
They're building the fire
2020.
pit
So this
on
is
June the 9th.
before the kids were found. Son of a bitch. So April 12th, 2020. Tylee and JJ were found June 9th, 2020.
No,
Right
oh
here.
my God.
I'm looking for some retaining wall blocks like these. Oh, he's looking for, a guy? Sounds like some damn Jason Mao shit right there. Y'all, something is terribly wrong here.
Yeah.
And it needs to be busted wide open because it
Yeah.
will never have a chance to ever be exposed to the magnitude that it could be exposed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I'm tired of them continuously, they sacrifice my family's blood. That's my blood too. And I'm tired of them using this to create their careers, to further the agenda, the plan, their little mission.
My God.
I'm sick of it,
My God.
Shame on them. I only need about 6 to 8. I mean, so the kid, what was he doing? Was he plotting with father-in-law? That weird phone call, the coded call that KJ did a effing master job. I forgot, KJ, to tell you. I even told Mom and Larry, I was like, y'all got to go listen to it because she decoded that damn call. And I was like, oh my God, girl, you got a gift. Holy hell. And
Thank you. We've got our jurors, I believe, lined up in the hall, so I think we can just stay standing and
sorry.
we'll have them brought in, please, Mr. Bailiff.
Okay, till then. But do y'all think that Chad and Lori, they were talking about moving the kids maybe off that property, according to code talked by KJ? Put this picture up, thumbnail. Okay. Good job. I mean, good idea. Good job. So what was he going to do with the damn dirt? The blocks, fill in the dirt from digging up the kids and moving them somewhere else? That coded jailhouse call between Chad and Lori was the day before the kids were found. That was in April. So I mean, I don't know. There's so many more people involved. One of them, I believe, on these Idaho News, but that's just me.
Thank you. Please be seated.
All right, sit down.
All right, that concludes the mid-afternoon recess. Mr. Pryor, continuing with the defense case in chief, if you'd like to call your next witness, you may. Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Y'all get ready for
Okay.
anything. This is her,
May I,
her
Judge?
husband.
Give me just a second. I'm checking one thing quickly. All right. Just checking the status of this exclusionary order, Mr. Pryor. I don't believe it applies here. So if you would like to inquire on direct, you can do that at this time.
Would you state your name, spell your last name for the record for me, please?
Joseph Murray. Do you want my middle name as well, or
That's okay. Joseph Murray.
and then Murray?
And do you know the gentleman to my left in the blue shirt over there?
I do.
Who is that?
That is my father-in-law.
Okay, and you are married to Emma Murray?
Correct.
How long have you been married?
This August will be 7 years.
How many children do you have?
3.
Okay, and a newborn, I understand, right?
Correct.
And to be fair, we met yesterday evening to discuss the case. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How many other prior occasions did you and I well, I don't think we ever met, but we spoke on the phone. Were there any other occasions
Just once.
prior to that?
Yep. And it was very brief. It was maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. Did I tell you anything to say to the jury or anybody else today?
Nope.
Did I ask you to do anything in particular in regards to this case?
Nope.
I want to talk to you about October 9th of 2019. Do you recall that day?
Or 9th.
If I say that there was a paintball incident, does that help refresh? your
Okay.
memory?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what you were doing on that day?
May I ask what time of day? Is there a particular
I
time?
wanna- In the evening hours.
In the evening hours. Okay. In the evening hours, I was out in the shed behind my house, chopping wood for our fireplace.
Okay. Did anything unusual occur shortly thereafter?
While I was out in the wood shed chopping, I got a notification on my phone that Tammy, my mother-in-law, Tammy Daybell, had posted in the local Facebook group saying that somebody had attempted to shoot her with a paintball gun. And so I went inside to talk with my wife and asked her if she had seen the or she'd seen the message as well. And she said she hadn't. She called Tammy, and I asked her to, because it was on speakerphone, I asked, did you call law enforcement? And she said no. So then I made a phone call to law enforcement at that time.
Was that prior to talking to Tammy about the incident?
That I called?
Yes.
It was after.
So you spoke to Tammy before you called 911?
Correct.
And do you recall, without saying what Tammy said, what the nature of the conversation was about?
She said that.
No, I don't want you to say what she
sorry.
said.
So the conversation was of the nature that she or Emma had tried to figure out, what was going on. And she had told, or during that conversation, it was brought up that the person that had shot at her.
Objection here, say, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you ever get any indication of the type of weapon that was used during this encounter?
Objection
Answers
calls for
you.
hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
At some point then, after discussing the case with Tammy, was your wife there as well?
Yes, and in the Facebook post that she had written, it specifically said
Objection calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
she said that it was a paintball gun and that it had something up on top similar to a paintball gun.
Did you have an occasion to talk to Emma or without saying what they said? Did you have an occasion to talk to Emma or to talk to Tammy about this thing that was supposedly on top that you referenced?
I hadn't.
Okay. So then you took it upon yourself to call 911. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you recall what you said during that conversation with the 911?
That my mother-in-law had been, or had said that she had been shot at by a.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
What specifically did you say to the operator in 911 about, not necessarily what your mother-in-law said, but what you reported occurred?
That my mother-in-law was shot at by a.
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for hearsay.
That calls in evidence, Mr. Wixom. So it's overruled.
Judge, I did hear overruled.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, re-ask your question. Sorry.
Madam Clerk, could you read back the last question, Tim? I want to make sure we're accurate on this.
Okay, so I don't know verbatim what I had said on the phone call, as that was several years ago. But I had told them that my mother-in-law was shot at by somebody with a paintball gun, and that somebody had and that the person had run off based off of what my mother-in-law had told me.
Okay. So at this point, at any time during this incident, did you see anybody run off around the house or near the house at that time?
No.
During this incident with the paintball gun, where were you specifically when you got that Facebook account notification?
I was in the woodshed because I lived kitty corner from them at the time.
Okay.
I was in the woodshed, which was behind my house, which was not even in the view of my in-laws' house. Because I lived
that Facebook account notification.
I was in the woodshed because I lived kitty corner from them at the time.
Okay.
I was in the woodshed, which was behind my house, which was not even in the view of my in-laws' house at that point.
Okay. At any time, did you hear a scream or a yell?
No.
Did you hear any kind of noise or commotion over there?
Nope.
Did you hear any kind of a swishing sound or anything that would indicate a rifle was shot off?
Nope.
Okay. Now, back in that woodshed, you may not have heard a swishing because you were quite a ways away,
Yep.
correct? But again, you didn't see anything either, correct?
Nope.
And at any time, did you ever tell a police officer and advise a police? Well, let me put it this way. Do you remember talking to a Coulter Cannon?
I do.
Okay, how did that transpire in your discussions with Officer Coulter Cannon?
So, after making the phone call, I continued out chopping wood, and I was actually over by my garden because I was trying to watch to see so that I could talk to the police officer. So I was closer or away from my house at that point, in the pasture, and I had seen him approaching, and so I ran up to him. He was still in his vehicle at the time, just across the street on the west side of the home, and I told him what I had or that I had called, and that based off of what I understood, that the person had run off.
Okay.
And I don't know what the person looked like.
And how long of a conversation would this have taken place with Officer Coulter Cannon?
Less than a few minutes. It wasn't very long because I wanted him to be able to have the time to go look for the suspect.
Are you relatively clear on what you said to Coulter Cannon that day?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. At any time, did you advise Officer Coulter Cannon that you observed someone running off from the house and running behind the house?
I did not.
How certain are you that you never made that statement to Officer Coulter Cannon?
Without a doubt.
Okay. Did you talk to Officer Coulter Cannon about this being a paintball gun?
Yes.
At any time with Officer Coulter Cannon, did you mention the words high-powered rifle or scope or any of those descriptions?
No, I did not.
At a time, did you describe that Tammy Daybell saw a thing on top of the gun or the paintball gun?
Not at that time. I did not.
Okay. Subsequent to this, did you have an occasion to talk to any other members of the family about this incident?
Directly after?
Yeah.
Just my wife.
Okay. Okay. Did the two of you discuss that whether or not this was a paintball gun or not?
We didn't.
Did that discussion ever even get breached at any kind during the discussion with your wife?
No.
Was it very clear to you that this was a paintball gun that was used on that day?
Based off of what my mother-in-law had explained to me, yes.
Objection here, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Thank you, Judge. I think he answered it, Judge. You said overruled, did you not,
I
Judge?
said overruled and he answered
Yeah.
yes.
I think he answered it already, Judge, well, before you even said it, I
Correct.
believe. All right, thank you, Your Honor. May I move on, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to talk about the Friday, October 18th, which would be the day before your mother-in-law passed away. Do you recall that day?
I do.
Okay. Before I get to that subject, I want to talk to you something about a 2000 and I'm going to get it right, a 2004 Dodge Dakota.
Okay.
Do you have that vehicle?
I do.
When did you get that vehicle?
It would have been in the spring of 2020.
Spring of
Late 2019, early 2020. I can't remember exactly.
Don't know when. When you say late 2019, what would
Like
what-
December.
Okay.
That would have been December because I had just gotten, it was like closer to the end of December.
Now, who did you get that from?
For my father-in-law, Chad Daybell.
Now, you previously testified, well, maybe you didn't previously testify. I think you made mention that you lived kitty corner to Chad and Tammy's home. Is that correct?
That is correct.
With your wife?
Correct.
And at this point, I don't recall whether there were kids at that point, correct?
With one.
One.
Yep.
You're up to three now, right?
Yep.
And growing.
Yep.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to observe Chad's regular patterns of travel, living kitty corner to him?
Yes, because at that time I was working I was working at the hospital and my shifts would start usually at noon. And so I would have to get ready and take our son to daycare. And oftentimes during that time, I would cross paths with Chad as he was heading to the Salem church.
So you're familiar with his individual patterns of travel in the mornings, is that correct?
Correct.
And about what time, you mentioned something about the Salem church. About what time did you see him going to the Salem church?
At about 9 o'clock in the morning.
How consistent, that's a big word. How often would you see that? Was that a regular activity? A pretty regular situation, him doing that?
Yes.
Did he ever vary that a little bit and maybe go to a different religious institution that you're aware of?
I know because when I would see him, he would be leaving the house generally, and he had his laptop case in his hand and some paper. And sometimes he'd head to the Salem church, but there were other times that he didn't head to the church, but I knew that he did